Welcome back to our Pictures YouTube channel. Today's class we'll be learning how to make this beautiful detail that we are seeing on this dress. It's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. If this is something you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so making this design is actually very simple. The amount of fabric you're going to work with depends on how many pleats you want to achieve. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just going to work with measurement of 12 inches by 22 inches. So the length is going to be 12 inches. I made this 13 inches as you have seen because of seam allowance, and the width is going to be 22 inches. So by the time we're done with this, you'll be able to see the measurement, what this measurement is going to give us. Then you can adjust yours accordingly. So I'm cutting on fold because I'm going to be using this same fabric as my lining, so I'm cutting the both of them together. And after cutting it, I'm going to separate the lining from the main fabric, and I'll go ahead and add my interface into the lining. Remember, this is going to stand, so I have gum stay, so I'm just trying to make this other side straight as well. You can see that it's not straight, so I'm going to fuse my gum stay to the lining before I use them to turn out each other. Okay, so I've gone ahead to fuse my gum stay to the lining. Okay, so this is the lining, this is the main bodies, and I'm going to be fixing these to these bodies that I already have. It's a yoke bustier blouse, and the tutorial on how I was able to make this is on the channel, so I'm going to be fixing it on this side. So for the length, you can as well measure where you want to fix it from your under bust or wherever it is you want to place this. You just measure it like that to get the actual length that you need. So now remember, this design has like beads and pearls on the upper part, which makes it really beautiful. But I'm not going to be adding pearls to this, so I just have a leftover lace of my actual lace that I used to make in my body. So I'm just going to sew the lace to the edge of the bodies like this. Okay, so I'm going to first sew it like this, then after sewing it, I'm going to turn it. Okay, I'll place it right side facing right side. I'm going to sew it like this, and then I'm going to turn it to the edge so that it's going to show on the edge like this before I use my lining to now turn all of the rough edges. So I'll go and fix this now and then bring it back for us to continue. So I'm going to add the lace to the edge of the main body, it's not the lining. So now you can add beads or pearls to yours if you want. So now I'm just going to place the right side of the lining against the right side of the main fabric, and then I'm going to sew it all around so that I can turn it out neatly. Okay, so I'm going to sew it all around as you can see. So now I'm going to cut the corners so that I can have a sharp edge when I turn it out, and then I left this small space to turn it. So I'm just going to dip my hand and turn it inside out, after which I'll go ahead and iron it flat before we start to create our pleats. So it's turned out now. You can see that the edges where we added the lace is neat, so I'll go ahead and iron this flat. Okay, so I've gone ahead to iron this neatly. You can see what it looks like both on the front and the back side. So now the next thing now is to create our pleat. So depending on how wide you want your pleat to be, I want mine to be around 1 inch. Okay, so I want the pleat to be around 1 inch. So by the time I fold it to form a pleat, that's going to be 2 inches for me. So now I have my ruler. My ruler is 2 inches. Okay, so you can see that we have exactly 2 inches here. So that's what I'm going to be using to create my lines. So between each of my pleats, I want a gap of half an inch. Okay, you can do quarter of an inch as 3/4 of an inch as well, but I don't want this too wide. This is just a tutorial. So if you want yours really big, you can adjust your measurement. So again, on my ruler, you can see that this first line here is half an inch. So that's what I'm going to be using. I'm not going to be working with tape. So now I'm just going to bring in my ruler and then mark out the 2 inches first, and then I'll shift it to the half an inch and then mark out the half an inch as well. So now after that I'll mark another 2 inches. So you can see I'm marking it, then shift to half an inch and then mark half an inch again. After that I'm going to mark out another 2 inches. I hope you can see this well. And then after the 2 inches I'm going to mark out another half an inch. Then I'll mark 2 inches, half an inch. So that's how I'm going to mark everything. You can see, so each of our pleats is 2 inches, and by the time we fold it to create the pleat, which is going to rest on these 2 inches, is going to become 1 inch pleat. Okay, so now you can see the pleat. So this is the first pleat, then the second pleat is this. So you fold from one end of the 2 inches to the other to form your pleat. So once you fold it like this, it forms a pleat. So you can see the second pleat, and they'll keep resting on each other with the half an inch gap that we created. So now I'll fill up all of this now before I decide to. So you can actually iron it directly, but what you can do to make this easier for you, sorry, half an inch to follow this. What you can do to make this easier for you is to just create like a gather stitch, so that it's going to hold it for you while you iron. Then by the time you finish ironing it, you can loosen it out. So whichever one works for you is fine. But I'm just going to create that gather stitch, so that it's going to serve like a guide for me. Okay, so these are my lines now. The next thing is for me to fold it to create my pleat. So from one end of the 2 inches to the other, I'm creating the first pleat like this, and then I'm just going to sew it on this line to hold it. Then after creating that pleat, I'm going to go ahead and fold the next one as well. Remember, when you are sewing this, you use your gather stitch because you are still loosening it back, and it's not compulsory for you to sew. So you can see, so this half an inch now is the gap. So I'm going to fold the next one, that's the next big line. So from here to here, you fold them against each other like this, and then it's going to also rest on it. So you can see that we're already creating our pleats. I created 3 already. So now you are going to be sewing on this line. I'll go and sew it, then bring it back to show us what we have. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew it down. As you can see, I've formed my pleat. So the next thing now is to take it to the ironing table and iron it very flat. You can use a steam iron because you need this to be really flat before you loosen it, so that you have your crease lines intact. So I'll go ahead now and iron this flat before I loosen this out. So once you iron it flat now, you can just hold this part down with a stitch, and then this upper part is going to spread out like a fan. Okay, so I've gone ahead to iron this as flat as I can. If you have a heat transfer machine, you can use it to apply more pressure to it. So now the next thing now is to loosen these stitches. Remember, I used a gather stitch, so it's going to make it easier for me to lose. So you just bring in your seam ripper and then you use that to loosen. So I'm going to loosen it out now. So like I said, you don't have to sew it like this, but this is a tutorial and I want us to understand it, the concept behind it. So that's why I just feel this is the easiest way to make us understand this. That was why I went ahead to stitch it. So now I'm loosening it out, and because I've really pressed it down, so you should sprinkle enough water because you need your iron to be very hot. So in order not to burn your clothes, you sprinkle water on it. That's why I said you can use a steam iron. That's going to help you iron it really flat. Okay, so I've gone ahead to loosen it, as you can see. So I did not loosen it completely. I loosened it up to like around 3 inches. Okay, so I stopped losing around 3 inches, so I loosened from 3 inches upwards. So this is what I have. So after loosening it out, now you can see that we still have our crease line, but you can still go ahead and still press it down more. Okay, so after ironing it like this, I'm going to bring in my bodice. Okay, you can add this to a bustier or a corset. So I'm just adding this to a regular bustier, and you can see my cup really spells out like this. So now on the cup area, now I'm going to bring it in and then I'm going to sew it here like this. Okay, so for this tutorial I'm just going to pin this down. So you're going to sew it now to your cup area. You can also tack it here and there if it's coming down, so the remaining one is just going to let loose like that. So after sewing it down, you're going to get maybe some patterns on your lace if it has patterns to cover up this side, or you can just get a trimming and then you paste it there so that it can cover up where you sew it for you. So I'm going to go ahead now and just pin this down. Then after pinning it, I'll take it to the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. So it may be a bit bulky, so you can see that I'm shifting it. So you just find a way to either tack it down or sew it with your machine, so you can flip the pleat before sewing it, because if you want to take your machine on all of these pleats, it may not be able to take them all at once. So you can see how I'm just trying to flip this over before I put my pins. Okay, so if you flip it over like that and also tack it, the pleat is just going to cover it up for you, so you can see that the pin is no longer visible. So that's a way you can do that. So now I'm pinning it down. Then after pinning it down, I'm going to cover it with my trimming or my leftover lace if I still have. And then here, like I said, it may be spilling over, so you just look for a place here again, and then you also pin it down so that everything can stay in place for you. So once you tack it, okay, I'm pinning, but in your case you should tack it. If you tack it, you can see that the pleat is going to cover it up for you. So once you're okay with what you have, you just cover the rest with your trimming. So I'll go over now to the mannequin and fix it on the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. Okay, so now it is fixed, and I use this trimming to cover it up. I just held it with pins. So on this upper part now, I used my lace to beautify it, but you can also use your bead or pearl or just anything to decorate it. So this is what it looks like. Your design can be bigger or smaller, and you can see that my pleats are 1 inch interval. Yours can be bigger or smaller depending on what you want. I can place it anyhow. I placed mine from this side and it just went towards the side, so you can place it on the underbust area here so that it can just move upward. So I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you want to learn how I was able to achieve this cute top as well, the tutorial is already on the channel, so you may want to check that out as well. You can follow us on all social media pages at Larry Beatrice. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.